We're recording now.
Okay. Good morning.
All set.
This is the Friday, May 17th, 2024 Western Board of Education Financial Facility Operations Committee meeting. It is 9:04. We do have a quorum with Michael, Stephen, and myself on the meeting, so we can commence with the agenda items. First agenda item is an update on facilities and grounds maintenance.
Okay, quick update. Final stretch. Working into end of year, working into graduation. It's been nice. Things are going actually very well. From personnel perspective, we're almost full strength. We got two gentlemen back. We got our Chuck Lita Grounds has returned to work. Custodian middle shift at the high school at the high school has returned to work. Just waiting on one gentleman, Tommy, which we're expecting somewhere in the summertime, summer, July, August, hopeful for a return. Then we'll be back to full strength. Phil and I's plan has worked pretty well. As you get to this time of the year, it's a little bit more complicated, only because our calendar year ends in, about 6 weeks. So guys have time to burn. There's vacation days, there's personal days that have to go. So we just move the puzzle pieces around and we get through the day. We haven't had any issues. Been a little scarce here and there, but our plan has worked really well. So something that was unprecedented went very well for us. We have the track is going to begin. It's May 29, May 30, as soon as the athletics are ended. Mark had done some shifting around. I'm waiting for an on-site walkthrough with the company coming through. Hopefully our weather dries out a little bit. That way we can not have any complications with graduation and all that good stuff, because there is some setup done on the on stadium field for the graduation and the middle school moving up. We have, as long as our weather goes good enough, the demo, the reclaiming, the paving is a piece of cake. So us getting into our graduation for the 13th should certainly not be an issue. But now we're just working with that tight timetable to get the football team back on the field August. Don't quote me. I believe it's August 12th or 13th. So that's our tight window with the weather. So with that being said, everything's going pretty well. For facility wise, that's about all I have to update, unless you guys have some questions specifically on anything else.
I'm good. Anyone else?
No, I'm good. I'm good here. I had a question about the staff, but it sounds like you guys have navigated that pretty well, and we're through the woods on that one. So good job. That's great.
Yeah, it went really well.
All right. Thank you. We'll move on to agenda item number 2, which is a discussion on the Healthy Building Initiative. And I thought I would use the agenda item to just sort of read sort of a summary of our LED light bulb initiative audit assessment, just for clarity. And then my plan is to publish this so the public can get a better understanding of our work in this area under the Building Healthy Building Initiative. So indulge me for a minute, and I have like a 1-minute paragraph, and I think this was circulated. So here's the summary. LED assessment in support of efforts by the Weston High School Green Team and other campus-wide sustainability initiatives with the aim of lowering operational costs in our schools' buildings. Weston Public Schools is eligible for free energy usage audits by the Connecticut Center for Advanced Technology, partnering with Energize CT. However, the energy usage component due to lighting is a smaller part of the larger power consumption mapping of our buildings. So in order to drill down deeper and better understand how choices of lighting affect energy costs, and additionally how choices of lighting affect student performance, the Weston Public School bid for a free LED lighting assessment conducted by the Indoor Environmental Quality in Schools Group at the Department of Energy's Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory. This project examines benefits of adjustable track lighting, applying the appropriate color temperature LED lights based upon the type of learning in a classroom, fixture placement, and optimized illumination, and education opportunities so students can learn how to use sensors and illumination analytics. Unfortunately, WPS eventually lost out to Boston Public Schools, who have invested in dedicated facility sustainability resources, whereas WPS have not yet. This was not unanticipated, since the gap in investment was highlighted by the Board of Education in the spring of 2023, and the insertion of capital budget resources for both hardware and lighting expertise was discussed during the January 2024 capital budget workshops as a response, as well as within this as during our Finance, Facilities, and Operations Committee meetings, where there's now a healthy building agenda item monitoring how we catch up. The LED assessment initiative is a comprehensive step towards that aim. So that's my summary for our work in this committee, our larger work as a board, and some of the things that actually Melissa Walker initiated last spring. So I'll post that for everyone's benefit, and we can move on to the next agenda item. Agenda item 3, review of the IAQ report.
So at the end of 2023, the state came up with a plan for indoor air quality testing. Needs to be done on an annual basis. This year it began on January of in 24. We had ours completed in February 24, received the report that you guys have in your hand at this point. Everything went really well. All our numbers were below any of the maximum levels that are allowed by the DAS. We had some low humidity ratings campus-wide. Not alarming, just a little bit low, but these tests were done in the dead of winter in January, where we have a lot more fresh air being introduced, just because we haven't really lowered our levels tremendously. We still keep a lot of the fresh air moving around. Our molds and fungi, which was the second column, the second grouping that you see there, everything was definitely well under tolerance, which is kind of bizarre with the area that our buildings are in. You know, we are in the woods. Every building is surrounded by woods. So all in all, pretty good shape. But we still are on COVID measures, and we're probably going to continue them. We do our filters about three to four times a year, so that definitely helps us out with our allergens and getting the particulates out of the air. So the one thing I had spoken with Phil about is only with the low humidity levels, is because we had it done in January, we're considering bringing the same company in for just a couple of select rooms come June, come July, just when the weather changes and we have some higher humidity levels outside, just to see where our numbers are at. But we have been working with our automation company, our contractor that we have our hours with. They run our systems, monitor our systems to see and make sure everything is running the way that it's supposed to be, most economically and safely.
Any questions, Michael?
Yeah, I didn't have any questions. I mean, I just saw those, that the humidity was a little bit off. I guess my only question to you, Mike, is the state compiling a database here of sort of, what's happening throughout sort of all the school districts? And I assume that they're doing this basically on an availability / rolling basis. So to your point, you may be comparing, let's say, apples to oranges. If we're doing this in February, someone else is doing this in September, and sort of some of those measurements, some of those metrics may be a little off. So seems reasonable to go ahead and do just a gut check in the summer. So that's great. And the results overall look pretty good. So it's great.
Excellent.
I'm an IAQ aficionado, right? Like everyone has to have a hobby. So, I like that they do multiple samplings and multiple times of the year, but per your suggestion, the two things I thought I would see would be when windows are open. And I liked your point about, we have forced ventilation because windows are closed in the winter. Mm-hmm. Do we get too contaminants. One is allergens entering the classrooms. They don't really measure for allergens, right? So if we have the spring bloom and we have windows open, kids are probably sneezing a lot. And then in any parking or parental line area, do we have open windows, and do they measure for ozone, right? Because that's where ozone is introduced from the outside. And that would be my only two adders. If they have the capability, and when they do another measurement, maybe before school ends, can they add those two and just pick a couple select classrooms with open windows to see if those levels are also okay.
Okay, I made a couple notes, and yeah, we'll speak to Ted about this.
Excellent. Without any further questions, we'll move on to agenda item number 4, which is fiscal year 24 monthly financial update through April, including internal services fund for debt.
All right, so we are pretty much on track to remain with a surplus for fiscal year 24. Sorry, my years are a little bit muddied right now. So change month last time we reported was back in February. So the highlights of the changes since then, we have some positive variances on for salaries, the usual item turnover, FML. We have some reimbursement for workers' compensation. Benefits, we made a reduction to the anticipated unemployment claims. We're trending favorable there. Professional fees, slight adjustment there. We have a hold for the cost of the grant submittal for the middle school. So there's a $60,000 cost there. And we made an adjustment to anticipated costs for other professional services. So net, we're relatively flat. Property services, we have released $230,000. At the last meeting, I mentioned that the Board of Finance wants us to use capital funds instead of operating budget funds to fund the 3 items that we had to mitigate the capital budget. Last night, we met with the Board of Selectmen, and the first step was the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen did approve that capital special appropriation request. Next step will be the Board of Finance in June. Other services, we made some adjustment there for change in students' need for special education. Electricity, we made an adjustment, negative adjustment. Also, we're seeing some increase in the delivery charges by Eversource. We'll continue to monitor the electricity account to ultimately see where we'll be at the end of the year. Small adjustment to revenue offset to account for increased Medicare reimbursement. So what we're looking at this point is a surplus of $534,000. Between now and the remainder of June, there will be fluctuations. We will not know what the final number is until we close our books. Typically, we close our books in about August or so, and when we will do the final reporting for the year, I think either late August or early September. And that is it for the financial update.
Hey, Phil, I just had one quick question for you, just on the energy, the electricity costs. I think, if I remember correctly, I think you did an analysis back in February about delivery charges, and I feel like the delivery charge, I think beforehand we were expecting it to be, I guess, less than expected or below budget, if I remember correctly. And I can't remember the figure that we used back then for February. And then now this is, sounds like, and I don't know if this is unanticipated or not, but it sounds like it kind of switched over. And now we have a bad guy and there's an increase here. Is that, how volatile is that measure? I mean, I assumed it wasn't as volatile and fixed over a certain period of time, but I could be totally mistaken on that. And how do we budget for that? How volatile has it been, or how volatile is it? And then how do we budget for that, Phil?
All right, so just to recap, so I think the adjustment that we made was for the virtual net metering, which is so it wasn't for the delivery portion of it.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, so that's what that was. On the delivery portion of it, it tends not to be volatile, right? It tends to be a little bit based on usage. So I think what we projected back in February was that based on trends that they were more within line. But when I took a look at the last invoice compared to where we were, it was significantly higher than than what I thought it would be. So again, it could be that it may settle out for the remaining months. But I just kind of wanted to kind of be a little bit conservative in terms of what that ultimate estimate will be. We just started to generate on the VNM, so we'll have to see ultimately where the VNM cost and ultimately the credits, how they play out, and how the combination of those two, what that impact will be on the overall cost.
Okay, because the delivery is not like, right, I assume on the supply side, that gets locked in for a period of time, right? That price on the delivery, that's going to fluctuate from
Yes.
month to month. Okay, got it. Okay.
Correct. Yeah. So yeah, we have no control over that. That's all driven by Eversource.
Right.
I have tried to better understand all the charges on an Eversource invoice, and I have been unable to do that now for several years.
I'm with you on the residential side, so.
Any other question on the overall financials?
No, I think we're good. So
Okay.
on to
Yeah. So I should point out there's one bit of uncertainty which I need to have conversations with the town, and that has to be with the reimbursement for OPEB. So things have been a little bit different. What I have factored in is the actual cost for retirees. So I just have to speak with Rick Darling on the town side to see if that's actually going to be the case. So all in all, I mean, if we get more, it's going to increase the surplus. But my number here is a little bit on the conservative side. On the dental costs are trending as anticipated. So we'll true everything up for the end of the year.
Understood. Okay. No further questions? Then we will move on to agenda item number 5, which is review of recent RFP results.
All right, so we're going to go through, I think, 2. We're going to review the out of district, and we're going to review the cleaning services. Right. So we did an RFP for out of district transportation, which really relates to our SPED PPS department. We had 3 companies responded: our current vendor, Sunrise/Relia, Quality Transportation Services, and Connecticut Transportation Solutions. So based on the pricing that we have here, we have sort of kind of just allocated or divided the routes based on the lowest cost to all 3 vendors, with the exception of route number 5, which is a little bit unique as it relates to the needs of this particular student. And based on the needs of this particular student, we have decided to continue to award this route to Relia. The difference between Relia and QTS, Quality Transportation Services, is approximately $8,000. But I think based on the needs, it does make sense for us to award to this vendor. And again, in terms of criteria, in terms of what we use to decide this, for this particular group, is primarily driven by the cost. All these vendors are, with the exception of QTS, which is a new entrance to the market, but the company's new, but the owner's been in the industry now for several years. We are confident that they'll be able to provide the service to the level that we need. And having 3 vendors gives us the flexibility. As we know, the needs of SPED, as we saw this month, we had changes in last minute. And it can be a little bit on the volatile side and a little bit unpredictable. So having 3 vendors available to us makes it easy. We have options now. So I think this is the way to go.
Sounds prudent. Any questions?
Yeah, 2 questions really quickly. Phil, contract term here, is there? I don't know what that is. Is there
Okay. 1 year.
It's 1 year. So this happens every year.
Yeah. So previously, So previously we have been with Relier for 5 years. We had an initial 3-year term, but right after, in the midst of all that, we had COVID. And I would say we continued with Relier for two reasons. One, they were favorable in terms of their rates, and they were excellent in terms of providing us with transportation, all the changes that we had to make at the time. We have decided this year to do an RFP because I think it's just time. After 5 years, we do want to see where the market is, and pretty much just to optimize on pricing.
All right, great to know. Second question and last question here. Thanks for calling out Route 5. What is it that, let's say, like I assume, and I guess incorrectly, right, that these services are commoditized, and maybe they are to some extent, but Route 5, I guess, is a unique circumstance. What is it that Relia is offering that, let's say QTS or the others weren't?
Sure.
In services, so that we, in terms of us, resulting in us paying an extra $8,000.
Yeah, it's less. It's more right. It's really based on just the cost of the route, and they're just a little bit higher on their basic route charges. But the important thing here is a service to the student. The student needs an aid. The student has significant needs. The aid needed to be trained by the school, the out of district school. So the aid is currently trained, and assuming that the aid remains. Okay. Based on that need, we decided to remain with Relia. Again, this could change, right? And if it does change, we will award after the board meeting next week. And if we find out that Relia or Sunrise does not want the route, we would have to ensure that for the beginning of the ESY in early July, that whoever it is that we ultimately will award to, probably more than likely will be QTS, that the aid there is also trained by the school.
Got it. Okay.
It's really just more so a continuity and to maintain the current level of services for the student.
So in summary, it's really aid driven, right?
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Some familiarity that comes at a little bit of a premium because the aid's the key part of the component here.
Correct. Okay. And just one clarifying point, I was just reminded that we do have a 3-year contract. So the current contract here is 3 years. So we'll do 3 years, but within all of our contracts, we do always reserve the right to end the contract. If we believe that the renewal rate is above market, we will end the contract and issue a new RFP.
Okay.
Moving on to cleaning. So we had back in April, we had 11 vendors showing up for our mandatory walkthrough. Of the 11, we had 6 responded. Of the 6, we had the price range. Just let's go on the total contract price over 3 years, went from 2.6 million up to a high of 3.4 million. A lot of that had to do with a combination of staffing levels and the cost for equipment and supplies. Based on what we know in terms of the staff that's needed for cleaning, we know that any staffing below 30 is going to be difficult to accomplish for the buildings to be clean to the level that we expect. So based on that, we have decided to not pursue any agreement with S&J. So we pretty much eliminated S&J. We have also eliminated Coastal. Coastal is more on the high end. They're at 3.2 million over 3 years, and their proposed staffing levels is 22. We have also eliminated SMG because SMG, while they're providing more staffing, they're pretty much at the highest cost. So when we take all of that out, we're left with really 2 companies to consider: our current vendor, Finico, and Shamrock. Shamrock was the vendor prior to Finico, and Shamrock is coming with a staffing level at 27. with a contract price of $3.2 million. Affinica is providing us with additional staff, and I think their experience over the past 5 years, they've been with us now for 5 years. They've seen the need and they've made adjustment. I think they're adding maybe a 1.5 above where we currently are from a staffing level. And based on all of those factors and all the strides that they have made over the past few years to kind of get us to a point where we're happy. It's been a little bit bumpy, I would admit that. But I think they've been very responsive to our needs and to our concerns, and they have always taken immediate measures to ensure that things are where they should be. And we continue to meet with them on bi-weekly basis. There's a current meeting with the principals, Mike as well, with their leads. And then we do have our quarterly meeting on the administrative level. So all in, at this point, we think it's best that we remain with the current vendor. I think just for continuity of service and just to get us to where we need to, we recommended that we stay with Affinica.
Any further questions?
Phil,
Sounds great. Go ahead, Steve. Sorry.
question. So just procedurally, when we go through all these different contracts, are we going to then present them to the board?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, moving on from RFPs. Thank you guys very much for those approvals. We're moving to, I'm sorry, Peter, I'm just going to discontinue because of a few items here. Is that okay?
Yep, go for it.
Recommended tuition rates. So for the past, I would say a few years back from 1920, I believe, we've been increasing our pre-K rates based on whatever the budget increases for the new year. Every couple of years or so, we kind of do a comparison to see where we are compared to market. We have done that for this year, and you see based on what you have that the price is a range from a low of $6,400 to $11,000 almost $12,000. What we're recommending, and we have also highlighted because there's been some question in terms of what are the current rates for private preschools. The private preschools, you can see, they're significantly more than the private schools, than the public schools, sorry. So our recommendation for this year is to go with the average. Well, we have two options. We can continue to make the base that increase on the budgetary increase, 2.41%, or we can increase based on the average. I'm definitely going to recommend that we do based on the average, because at some point, if we do not increase based on the average for this year, the cost for next year may be significantly higher to the families. In addition to that, we kind of mentioned to the families that the rates, now we give them a soft cost, because I think the lottery happened in December of 23. And we told them, SADA kind of told them that an increase would not be approved until May. So roundabout way of saying recommendation is to increase based on the average.
And from a expense point of view, that covers our expenses?
So when you think about the program itself, right? So the program itself it's more of a SPED PPS program, and the goal is to ensure that the SPED population that they have like peers. So this program really is to ensure that there are like peers within the program itself. From a cost perspective, it would help to offset the overall cost of the program, but I would not necessarily say that dollar for dollar that is covering the cost.
By how much?
That I would have to look into, Steve. But to give you a sense as to what this program is bringing in, the anticipated revenues from the program this year is $160,000. We're going to be somewhat within the same range for next year. I think we have one less class cohort for next year, but we should be relatively in the same group. This has gone up significantly over the past several years. Back in 2021, we were at about, the revenue generated was about 74,000, went up to 80,000 in 22, and in 2023, it was $121,000. So historically, that's not been a huge income generator, but it just used to offset the cost of the program. I would say at this level, at $160,000 thereabout, it would cover the cost pretty much for a classroom, when you think about the cost for an aide and also the cost for the teacher. And again, these are not full day programs, these are half-day programs.
Okay.
So good question on the cost, Steve. I had the same question. I've just two other questions, I guess, Phil. This is interesting. Number one, just on the hours here, I just want to be clear. So on the hours here, so we're saying this is in the program. So for Weston, it's, it's almost 5 hours a day. Is that correct, of instruction?
Yeah.
Okay. Because it's funny, if I actually normalize, right, the amount per hour, right, the rate per hour, of course, then the 8,000, slightly over 8,000 is even a discount, right? Because now you're talking about something closer to 8,500 if you're normalizing. But I get the, there's only so much you could do on the increase there in terms of, is that something that when you're looking at the cost here, let's say, to the families, is that something that you want to get to, Phil?
Yes.
I'm not sure how
Yep.
you would go about modeling this.
Yep, you're 100% correct. So one of the reasons why we did the normalized cost, and I think when I did it, it was probably between $8,500 and $8,600. Why we decided not to go with that number is because we are a little bit concerned that some families may decide not to participate. In addition to that, it's a significant increase this late in the game. What we're considering for next school year, because the lottery is awarded in December, January timeframe, is pretty much to bring a recommendation for a price increase earlier. So this way, the families are informed closer to the lottery date in terms of what the ultimate cost is, and at that time they can make an informed decision in terms of whether or not they want to continue here or if they want to go elsewhere.
Yep, that makes sense. So at the 8,000, for there's a timing aspect here, of course, because it's a little late. And then at the 8,000, we don't necessarily expect that it's going to be, very detrimental in terms of attendance or the number of families opting in.
Correct.
But at the 8,500, then we could start to see some challenge there in terms of attendance.
Correct. I mean, listen, this is all anecdotal, right?
Yeah.
But I think just from where we are from a timing perspective, that's why we kind of went with this recommendation.
Great. Thanks.
Moving on to non-resident tuition. You have the sheet in front of you. Historically, we have pegged the increase here to the CPI. Is it the CPI? Let me get it correct. Nope. To the budget increase. We're doing the same thing for this year, so you do have those rates in front of you. Any questions?
Let's move
Any
on.
questions?
Nope.
Okay.
You going on to number 8?
Yep. Utility rentals. I'm sorry, facility rentals. This is the one that we do peg to the CPI. So again, these are just taking the current rate and increasing them by 3.8% based on the most recent CPI. Just to let the board know, sometimes this can be challenging, right? For our group one, there's no cost. We tend to get a lot of pushback from everyone else that has to pay the cost. And based on their usage and what the ultimate cost to them is, they think that it is too high, and it is a struggle, especially with certain groups on an annual basis, that what we're charging them is too high, and and it's a long discussion to explain to them why the costs are what they are, and that we have to maintain the facility and everything else. But ultimately, we normally end up at a good place. So based on that, we're not necessarily recommending that our rates be significantly higher than where they are right now. Unfortunately, because of the makeup of the town, the school facilities are the only facilities that's really available to the town. And we try to partner with everyone in town in the best way that we can, and also to use those funds available to maintain our facilities.
But again, just getting back to cost, I'm sorry. I just want to make sure whatever we do, it's not a lot, education is one thing,
Yes,
facilities is another. It just can't be a loss leader.
it is not. It is
Okay.
not. Yes, no, it is absolutely not. We have a line item in our in the budget, which is facility use rental, right? So whatever is remaining, that's pretty much used as an offset. So it's by no means is it a loss leader. It covers the cost of utilities, and it covers the cost of the custodians, and we have some rentals and some wiggle room, so to speak, with that.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, we don't have to make money on it, but we get the right things so we can't lose money on it.
I agree with you 100% on that one.
You have a question, Michael?
Yeah, just a quick question, Phil, just on this. I guess we always use this core CPI number in March. Is that what happens every year? It's the same pegging.
Yeah, we tend to use the same pegging because that tends to be the closest number that we have. It hasn't changed that much since April, so we tend to be around to use the March number.
Yeah. Okay.
Any concerns, Mike?
Nope.
Okay.
Thanks.
Next item, Peter.
We're on to agenda item number 9, discussion of selling grounds equipment.
So for this one, we have a piece of equipment that was purchased back in 2009. So it's a Jacobson. It's a massive machine. It's a lawnmower. We have not used this lawnmower now, I would say, in the past 5 years or so. I think since I've been here, I've only seen it out in the fields maybe once or twice. It's a little bit cumbersome to use, and it's not a favorite machine for our grounds crew. We're recommending to sell this equipment. I think we did place this item on GovDeals, which is the auction site that most government entities use, and we came back. I think we came back about between 9,000 and 12,000. I forgot the exact number. We weren't happy with that number. We reached out to another company to kind of give us how much they would kind of give us on a trading basis. So we were looking for a little bit more for this piece of machinery. The goal is, by selling this piece of machinery, we're trying to move away from having an equipment that only serves one purpose. I think 2 years ago, we purchased a Ventrac, which is a versatile machine, and it has really done a lot. It does the fields, it does lawnmower, it blows the leaves, and we use it also for snow plowing. So the goal is to use this money that we're getting from the sale of the Jacobson to purchase another Ventrac. It would be an additional cost to the board of approximately $20,000, assuming that we can get the cost that we have. We also have money available to us from the sale of 2 buses. We did sell 2 buses, I want to say, a year or so ago. So the combined cost, if we take the revenue that we have from the buses, that would probably lower the cost for the new Ventrac to about $10,000 or so. So we just wanted to have this discussion and to see if there's any concern with us doing that. As I mentioned, we have sold through GovDeals 2 unused sped buses These are the wheelchair vans, maybe a year or so ago.
So this is an idle piece of equipment right now?
It is.
Something is better than nothing, right?
Yeah, and I mean, it's taking up space. It's a massive machinery, and I think we can get much better use by buying a second Ventrac. We can be more efficient in terms of what we're doing. In addition to that, we do have one of our smaller zero-turn lawnmower, single-use machine, that's on its way out. The cost that we're looking at for replacement of this unit is between $15,000 to $19,000. Another reason why we're making the recommendation to buy a second Versatile machine.
Is the replacement machine in the capital budget yet, or will it be in the capital budget for this?
It is not, Steve. We're hoping that the plan is to use again the money that we have from the sale of the buses and money from the operating budget to kind of take everything together and purchase the machine.
Fine with me. I don't know, Michael.
Yeah, good to no, sounds reasonable.
When you sell equipment, it goes back into the operating budget surplus?
No, what we do when we sell, we don't do this on a regular basis, but what we have been doing is that we put this in another fund, which rolls over from year to year.
Got it. It's like my new car fund at home. Okay. That sounds like a good plan, especially if you get more utility and the facility staff likes this machine better. It's a good trade-in value.
Yeah.
All right. I just lost my screen. There we go. We're on to number 10, discussion of RFP waivers.
Ooh, I have a lot to this month. So this relates to the capital project for security. I know the capital budget has not been approved yet, but we just need to have the conversation. This year, we've had struggle in the past with vendors relating to security in terms of the level of service and their responsiveness to our needs, and a little bit of concern with their pricing. When Director Rios came on board, he reached out. Well, prior to him reaching out, we reached out to a few vendors. So we had one vendor for intrusion, and then we had another vendor that dealt with our overall surveillance package. And we really wanted to make a change. It's been several years that we're trying to make a change to those companies, and we were locked into a contract with one of those companies as well. And we also tied into that was also the company that maintained Alertus. So there were three vendors that we were working with in the past. When Director Rios came on board, he mentioned to us that, hey, Omni does all of this work and they're able to do all this. And, we had conversations with Omnidata, and Omnidata coincidentally was a company that installed a lot of our security initiatives a few years ago. And for whatever reason, we made some changes there. Nothing to do with performance. It was something else. So when Director Rios came on board, we met with Omni, and we found that Omni could really be a one-stop shop. We have been using Omni now, I would say, since Director Rios came on board as our one-stop shop for all service related to. We don't have a lot of work that needs to be done to our Alertus system, but as it relates for intrusion and an overall surveillance package, Omni has been the company. With that said, Avigilon, which covers our cameras, they're awarded. They have authorized retailers. Omni is one of those authorized retailer. It has to do with servers and everything else related to the surveillance system. So this is a long-winded way of saying that we're looking to not to have a waiver to continue with Omni. So Omni will be the point person for these services instead of doing an RFP for a new vendor. Historically, when we do have capital projects or any kind of security initiative, we have awarded or continue to work with the vendors that we currently have in place, or pretty much with the providers that we have in place. So to really not a change in practice. This is more of a more formal request than what we have done in the past.
You have a question, Michael?
No, I think I'm set. Thanks for the color there, Phil. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you guys very much. And one of the reasons why it's critical that we have this discussion is when we move forward, because this is ultimately a capital project. The funding source is going to be from the town. And I just want to also be able to inform the Board of Finance that we have requested and have an approved waiver. I will make this request also at the board meeting on Monday night. Thank you, guys.
Great. Thank you.
Understand. Thank you. I guess we'll move on to 11, which is a motion to approve the March Financial Facilities and Operations Committee minutes. Any questions about the minutes? If not, can someone make a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Sure.
Aye.
Aye. Yep.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion has passed. Thank you. 12, other business. I have no other business, but I'll leave it to Michael, Steve, or Mike or Phil if there's other business. If not, we can adjourn.
Nope.
I'm all set.
Mike, the campus looks great. I think just driving through it.
Oh, actually, I had a question. How are we doing on preps for commencement? Right? Any hiccups? Any good news? I can't control the weather for you, but outside of that, any?
No hiccups. We just have, like I had spoken about before, just the tracks being done. So our timing's is a little tight, but the front half of that project shouldn't be an issue. The biggest thing that we're going to have is just the trucks for the delivery, for the equipment, for the staging, chairs, all those things. They just won't be able to drive on the track. We have enough plywood down for driving our lifts around the gyms to put on the track. If they have their hand trucks, because the staging it's pretty heavy. It's probably about 75 to 100 pounds a piece. The carts are about 10 pieces wide. So no, we have no hiccups. We have enough material here for walk-off mats. It just won't be a nice, pretty track that we're walking across. It's just going to be a freshly paved asphalt spot at this point. We had our first graduation meeting earlier this week. Everything went well. Working with the rental company just for the equipment that is being requested. So no hiccups. And if the weather changes, which we know it changes on like a hourly basis here, we can go inside. We'll be set up inside for the for staging anyway, for the kids, for the moving up the day after, for the graduation the day of. So no, we'll, like typical years in the past, we'll be ready both ways. So there's no surprises, no last minute setups like we've had to do in the past. Everything will be set up. I'd rather be prepared and take a day or two at our own pace to knock it down after graduation, after moving up, than run around like fools an hour before trying to get everything set up nicely. So, and also our fire marshal does have to walk the space to give the okay for the indoor and the outdoor. And obviously the indoor, the egress is a little bit more challenging. So we'll be set up. So at this point, fingers crossed, we're good.
That's great.
Real quick, I just want to just kind of give from Michael, just to give you a little bit more perspective. So the track replacement project is an approved capital project that from last fiscal year. But just based on timing, we could not get that work done. Our process ends really early May, and we could not get on a schedule to have the track replaced at that time. So it was on the capital budget from last fiscal year. We pretty much got on queue with the vendor as soon as it was approved, and we have been in discussion with the vendor. I forgot the name of the vendor since then, and just to secure a spot in line.
God, I appreciate that. Thanks, Phil.
Okay, sounds very reassuring. It's always a special event here. There's actually not an official agenda item for adjournment, but I think we're wrapped up for this morning's meeting.
Yep.
So we'll
Thanks.
see everyone Monday evening, and enjoy your weekends.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you guys. Have a great weekend.
thanks, Peter, for doing this. Thanks.
Certainly. All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
See you later.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.